Some stories don't age, they echo. Some faces don't fade, they follow us. This is not just a reunion, it's a return to the ship, to the screen, and to a piece of ourselves. In 1997, the world stopped. A doomed ship, a forbidden love, a moment where cinema collided with memory. We didn't just watch Jack and Rose, we became them. We cried in silence when he let go. We believed, for a second, that love could defy even an iceberg. 1. Leonardo DiCaprio. He stood on the bow, arms stretched wide, the wind in his face and history changed. In 1997, Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't just Jack Dawson, he was the heartbeat of a global phenomenon. But few realized that at only 23, Leo had already been nominated for an Oscar, dazzled critics in The Basketball Diaries, and turned Shakespeare upside down in Romeo plus Juliet. Titanic made him the most desired actor on the planet. But fame? He didn't chase it, he challenged it. Instead of staying safe, DiCaprio took sharp turns. He teamed up with Martin Scorsese in The Aviator, The Departed, Shutter Island, The Wolf of Wall Street, redefining what it meant to grow up on screen. And in 2016, after years of near misses, he finally won his Oscar for The Revenant, a performance as raw and unforgiving as the wilderness it captured. But Leo's impact goes beyond cinema. Off-screen, he's a tireless advocate for the environment. Through the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, he's helped fund more than 200 projects in over 50 countries, fighting for wildlife, forests, and oceans most of us may never see. He rarely speaks about his personal life. He's never married. He lives quietly. Yet through it all, he's remained grounded, bringing his mom to premieres, standing by Kate Winslet as a lifelong friend. "He's my best friend," Kate once said. "We've grown up together." To many, he'll always be the boy on the bow of a ship. But for those who followed his journey, Leonardo DiCaprio became something more, proof that true icons don't just survive the spotlight, they rise above it and use it for good. Were you Team Jack back in 1997? Or did you cry when he let go? Let us know in the comments, we're reading every memory. Kate Winslet. In Titanic, she was Rose elegant, fierce, and unforgettable. But by the time Kate Winslet stood at the bow of that ship, she was already a rising star. At just 20, she'd earned her first Oscar nomination for Sense and Sensibility and stunned critics in Heavenly Creatures. Titanic catapulted her to global fame, but Kate never let the spotlight dictate her story. Instead of chasing fame, she chased complexity. She delivered emotionally layered performances in films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Reader, which earned her an Academy Award, and Revolutionary Road, where she reunited with Leonardo DiCaprio in a far darker kind of love story. Each role was different, but one thing stayed the same. She never played safe. Winslet later moved to television, defying Hollywood expectations once again. In Mare of Easttown, she stripped away glamour to portray a broken detective and won an Emmy. But beyond the screen, Kate's voice became just as powerful. She spoke openly about body image, aging, and self-acceptance in an industry that demanded perfection. She rejected airbrushing, refused silence, and inspired millions to be unapologetically themselves. And through it all, one bond endured: her friendship with Leonardo DiCaprio. "Leo's my best friend," she once said. "He always has been." Decades later, they still walk red carpets hand in hand, smiling like time never passed. To the world, she'll always be Rose. But Kate Winslet's true legacy isn't just the girl who survived the sinking ship, it's the woman who refused to shrink, who kept growing, and who reminded us that strength can be graceful and brilliance doesn't need permission. Kate's strength spoke to a generation. If she ever inspired you as Rose or in real life, hit like and tag someone who needs to hear it. Zane. He was the man everyone loved to hate: Caledon Hockley, the jealous fiancé with a gun and a sneer. But behind the villain was Zane, sharp, self-aware, and far more than just a bad guy in a tuxedo. Before Titanic, Zane had made a name for himself in Dead Calm and The Phantom, but Cal changed everything. His performance was so convincing, it blurred the line between character and actor, and for years, people couldn't separate the two. Billy never fought that image. He leaned into it, even poked fun at it, always knowing exactly who he was. While Hollywood chased franchises, Zane chose freedom. He stepped back from blockbusters, embracing smaller films, stage roles, and international projects. His focus shifted not to fade, but to evolve. Off-camera, he found another calling: art. As a painter and photographer, his work explores identity, perception, and time. His exhibitions span the globe, but his process is deeply personal. "I act for others," he says, "but I paint for myself." He's also stayed grounded and light-hearted, never bitter, never chasing fame. In interviews, he speaks warmly about Titanic, grateful for the role, amused that fans still call him Cal. He gets the joke and plays along. Today, Billy Zane is a reminder that legacy isn't built on being the loudest, but the most intentional. He may not have stayed at the top of every marquee, but he never stopped creating, never stopped choosing his own path. Some actors get locked inside their most famous role. Billy Zane walked out of his smiling, brush in hand, canvas waiting. Kathy Bates. She was the unsinkable Molly Brown, brash, bold, and impossible to ignore. But long before she stepped onto the Titanic, Kathy Bates had already made waves. In 1990, she won an Oscar for Misery, playing one of the most terrifying and unforgettable characters in film history. By the time Titanic came calling, Bates was already a force. As Molly Brown, she brought warmth and grit to a sinking ship, the kind of woman who would offer you a coat, then slap sense into you. Her presence grounded the story in something real: decency, humor, and steel beneath velvet. After Titanic, Bates kept rising. She earned more Oscar nominations for Primary Colors and About Schmidt, and conquered television with American Horror Story, where she created characters just as iconic, just as fearless. She won an Emmy, but more importantly, she won generations of fans. Off-screen, Bates faced battles far more personal. She survived ovarian cancer in 2003, then breast cancer in 2012. She spoke openly about her scars, her surgeries, and her strength. And when lymphedema took a toll on her body, she didn't retreat, she became one of its loudest advocates. Bates never fit the Hollywood mold and never tried to. She's outspoken, sharp, and proudly unconventional. A woman who calls things as they are, who lifts others up, and who never lets anything, not critics, not cancer, define her. Today, Kathy Bates isn't just unsinkable, she's unshakable. Not because she played strong women, but because she is one. From villains to survivors, which character arc surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts below. The quiet ones often leave the loudest echoes. Bernard Hill. He stood at the helm of Titanic, calm, proud, and doomed. As Captain Edward Smith, Bernard Hill brought quiet strength to the bridge of a sinking legend. He didn't need long speeches, just a stare, just presence. And in those final moments on screen, we believed him, we trusted him, and we mourned him. But Titanic was only part of his legacy. Before that, Hill was already respected in the UK for his role as Yoser Hughes in Boys from the Black Stuff, a performance that defined British drama in the 1980s. And after Titanic, he stepped into yet another iconic ship, the Kingdom of Rohan. As King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings, Hill gave us one of cinema's most unforgettable battle speeches. His voice thundered, his eyes burned. "Ride now, ride for ruin." It wasn't just fantasy. It was fire, it was leadership, it was art. He didn't chase the spotlight, but when he stood in it, you looked. He was a craftsman, not a celebrity. A man who elevated every scene by simply being in it. In May 2024, Bernard Hill passed away at age 79. Quietly, without fanfare, just like the men he played. But his absence echoed through fans, through castmates, through generations raised on the stories he helped tell. Some actors chase immortality. Bernard Hill walked into it slowly, gracefully, like a captain on his final voyage. We'll never forget the way he looked out at sea, or the way he looked at us even when he said nothing at all. Victor Garber. He built the ship that couldn't be sunk and went down with it. As Thomas Andrews, the Titanic's chief architect, Victor Garber played the role with rare dignity. No melodrama, just a man who knew the truth and stayed behind to face it. In a film filled with spectacle, Garber was restraint, integrity, a quiet soul carrying the weight of catastrophe. You remember him not for what he said, but for what he stood for. Before Titanic, Garber was already a fixture of Broadway, a Tony-nominated singer and actor known for Godspell and Sweeney Todd. On screen, he brought that same grace to supporting roles. Smart, steady, unforgettable. Titanic introduced him to a global audience, but he never made a fuss about it. That was never his style. After the film, he kept working not loudly, but constantly. He played Jack Bristow, the emotionally guarded father in Alias, earning praise for a role built on restraint and quiet love. He showed up in Legally Blonde, Milk, The Flash, Power, Family Law, slipping seamlessly between genres, always adding weight. In 2013, Garber quietly came out as gay. 2 years later, he married his longtime partner, Rainer Andresen. No headlines. Just a simple, honest life exactly like the men he often portrayed. He never needed to dominate a scene. He made it stronger by being in it. He didn't steal focus. He gave it structure. Like Andrews gave Titanic its bones. Victor Garber is the kind of actor we sometimes forget to celebrate because he never demands it. But when the credits roll and the emotions linger, we realize he was part of what made it all real. If Bernard Hill touched your life as a captain or a king, leave a heart for him. Some legends never speak again, but they're still heard. Jonathan Hyde. He played the man. No one wanted to be J. Bruce Ismay, the White Star Line chairman, stepped into a lifeboat while others drowned. Jonathan Hyde made him cold, calculated, and painfully human. You didn't like him, but you understood him. In Titanic, Hyde captured the face of corporate fear, a man who built a dream, watched it sink, and still tried to save himself. Not a villain, just weak. And that made him all the more haunting. Before Titanic, Hyde had already built a strong career. You saw him in Jumanji as the stern father and relentless hunter, and in Anaconda just before Titanic hit theaters. He often played men in control or lost it, men with titles, secrets, and silent wars behind their eyes. After Titanic, Hyde kept working, mostly under the radar. He took on stage roles, appeared in British television, and lent his voice to documentaries. While others chased visibility, he chose range and substance. What makes Hyde special is how invisible he lets himself be. He becomes the role, disappears into it, then vanishes until the next one. No scandals, no spotlight, just the craft. He never asked for empathy but gave it to every character he played, even the cowards, even the liars, even Ismay. In a film filled with heroes and heartbreak, Jonathan Hyde gave us something different. The face of failure, the kind we fear in ourselves, and in doing so, he reminded us that not every story is noble, but every story matters. Frances Fisher. She was the mother no one wanted, controlling, cold, and quietly cruel. As Ruth DeWitt Bukater, Frances Fisher embodied every ounce of class anxiety and maternal manipulation aboard the Titanic. She didn't scream, she judged, and she did it flawlessly. But Fisher's story goes far beyond corsets and disapproval. Before Titanic, she had already built a solid reputation in Hollywood, appearing in Unforgiven alongside Clint Eastwood, and carving out a space for smart, complex women on both film and TV. She wasn't a starlet. She was a force. In Titanic, Ruth wasn't just an obstacle, she was a warning. A woman clinging to the illusion of control while everything, including her daughter, slipped away. Fisher gave the role depth it didn't have on paper. She made Ruth believable, even sympathetic in the quietest, most unsettling way. After the film, she continued to work steadily, never chasing headlines but always delivering performances with weight. You've seen her in House of Sand and Fog, The Lincoln Lawyer, Watchman, Resurrection, sometimes maternal, sometimes mysterious, never flat. Off-screen, Fisher is outspoken and unfiltered, using her voice for political activism, environmental causes, and women's rights. She's not afraid to ruffle feathers, and she's never been one to soften her truth. Hollywood often sidelines actresses after a certain age. Frances Fisher refused to go quietly. She carved her space, not with noise, but with nuance. In Titanic, she played a woman terrified of losing status. In life, Frances Fisher became a woman who stopped asking for permission. Strong women misunderstood, powerful, complex. Frances Fisher played one. Who's your favorite strong female character in film? Let's build a tribute wall in the comments. Ioan Gruffudd. He wasn't a lead. He didn't get the girl. But Officer Harold Lowe, the one who came back for survivors, became one of Titanic's quietest heroes. Ioan Gruffudd played him with just the right amount of restraint and conviction. No speech, just action. It was a small part, but it stuck. Before Titanic, Gruffudd was known for his work in British theater and TV, especially as Horatio Hornblower, the dashing naval officer in a beloved series that cemented his screen presence. Titanic introduced him to the world, and he didn't waste the moment. After the film, he crossed into Hollywood with roles in Fantastic Four, as Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic, and starred in TV dramas like Forever, Liar, and Harrow. Gruffudd built a reputation for elegance, intelligence, and quiet command, a rare mix in modern leading men. Off-screen, his life has seen highs and storms. He went through a very public and difficult divorce, later finding stability and love again. Through it all, he stayed professional, grounded, and gracious, rarely making headlines, always showing up for the work. Today, Gruffudd continues to act in both British and American projects. He's not chasing spotlight, he's building a body of work that speaks for itself. In Titanic, he was the officer who turned the boat around. In real life, Ioan Gruffudd turned a brief moment of screen time into a lifelong career defined not by flash, but by follow-through. Charlotte Chatton. She was Madeline Astor, young, elegant, and newly married to a man decades older. Her screen time was brief, but Charlotte Chatton gave the role a quiet grace that lingered. She wasn't the centerpiece of Titanic, but like many in the ensemble, she played a real person and treated her with respect. There was poise in every look, every gesture. And then, like the character, she faded from the ship and the screen. After Titanic, Chatton didn't chase fame. In fact, she walked away from acting almost entirely. Instead, she shifted behind the scenes, becoming a writer, a producer, and a mentor. She founded a company dedicated to helping young storytellers develop screenplays and voices of their own. In an industry that often pushes actors to stay visible, Chatton chose purpose over profile. She built quietly, taught generously, and kept creativity at the center of her life. She's proof that legacy doesn't always need applause. Sometimes it lives in the people you help shape, the stories you help tell. In Titanic, she played a woman caught in a societal story not of her making. In real life, Charlotte Chatton rewrote her own and gave others the tools to do the same. Some actors don't seek the spotlight. They build it for others. If you've ever admired someone working quietly behind the scenes, tag them. This is for them too. They were just actors, but to us, they were something more. Symbols of youth, of love, of loss, of everything we once believed in. Some grew into legends. Some faded quietly. Some are no longer with us. But all of them, every look, every tear, every heartbeat remains, frozen in time, like the ship beneath the sea. Titanic wasn't just a film. It was a memory. And the people who gave it life still sail beside us. Which character stayed with you the longest? Which scene still lives in your heart? Share your Titanic memory below, because some stories never let go.